The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.
Welcome to Beyond Just Talk. This is a positive, inspirational, and thought-provoking program that discusses life and business topics from a solution-oriented perspective with your host, S.L. Young.
All right, welcome. It's another great day, and we're ready to discuss subjects that will make a difference in your day. This is a place that people connect, ideas are shared, and lives are enriched. My name is Stacey Young. My author's name is S.L. Young, but please call me Sly. For this week, we'll do a recap of last week's show, have a conversation with my special guest, Vernetta Freeney, who is the founder and chairwoman of the award-winning blog, Women Are Gamechangers. Have a discussion with my featured guest, DeShawn Robinson-Chew, who is a social entrepreneur, professor, and founder of SheEO LLC. We'll preview next week's guests. On last week's show, my guest was Jeff Stovall, who is the first Chief Information Officer for the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Mr. Stovall discussed his path from a student at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to working in telecommunications to becoming the Charlotte's first CIO. Last month, he was named the CIO of the Year for the nonprofit government agency category by the Charlotte Business Journal. He shared that his interest in coding began in the 4th or 5th grade, and he continued to develop his IT skills in high school. It wasn't until years into his career that he discovered that information technology is his real passion. Furthermore, the positions he held outside of IT, these experiences still helped him to develop his managerial and business skills. Mr. Stovall said that individuals are sometimes limited in receiving opportunities because of not having specific skills. However, this shouldn't be a limiter, according to him, because skills from other areas are transferable, even if it's not directly related. He also briefly discussed that culture is about dealing with an organization as a whole while also managing the subculture. He stressed that sometimes individuals forget that it's always about the people and not the technology. The people are the ones who get the job done. In his organization, due to its public nature, it's a lot less risk-averse than corporations because it's dealing with the public's money. Also, most communications are public records, so this impacts the way the business is managed. Another aspect of his job related to strategic planning. Simply put, he said that this is about where are you going to place your bets, whether that's funding, labor, or technology. Another topic Mr. Stovall discussed was that stakeholder management is essential. It's an ongoing conversation. You have to understand the difference between the must-have, the should-have, and the nice-to-dos. If you'd like to learn more about the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, and its work, please visit its website at charmec.org. That's CHARMECK.org. If you missed our conversation, it will be posted to my website within the next few days at slyoung.com/bjt-radio.html. If you'd like to connect with me after the show, you can reach me on my website at slyoung.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/beyondjusttalk, or locate me on Twitter, Google+, Instagram, and SoundCloud using the handle SLYoungVA. Before I continue with today's show, I want to welcome a special guest, Vernetta Freeney, who blogs and speaks about the importance of women living a life based on the story they want to tell. Ms. Freeney is the founder and chairwoman of the award-winning blog, Women Are Gamechangers. Vernetta Freeney, welcome to Beyond Just Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you on. So tell us, why did you start your blog?
It started as a way for me to have something to do as I was looking for a job. I was unemployed on my 27th birthday. I had left the school district after 4 years, and I had nothing to do, no prospects, no plan B. Yeah, so I started the blog as a way to kind of counteract what I was seeing on reality TV, because the women I knew were community leaders, starting businesses, all types of positive role models that I thought girls should be able to look up to. So that's why I named the blog Women Are Gamechangers. because we're not just some docile, quiet in the back doing nothing. You know, we're actually making big moves. So I wanted to showcase that.
Well, that sounds great. So what kind of information is contained on your blog?
There are stories of women we actually have at least one international woman that we feature, but there are stories of women all over the country who have started nonprofits, started their own business, shared their own stories of overcoming obstacles. And then we also share business tips, lessons, and strategies for women who primarily work from home, who have a targeted niche audience, or they are a solopreneur.
And so do all the ideas for your blog come from yourself, or do you solicit input from others?
It is a combination of both. A lot of the business lessons come from my own personal experience. And so I share the ups and downs that I've gone through in business. But, you know, I read other people's stuff. I listen to people if they comment, and I kind of write about that as well.
Great. And then, so why don't more women live a life that's based on their story? Because you talk about writing from a woman's perspective and their story. So why don't more women do that?
I think a lot of times women are afraid to share what has happened in their past, especially if it wasn't pretty, and they feel that they will be judged. I've had so many women tell me that they've wanted to start a blog, but they're afraid of what people are going to say.
Mm-hmm. And that could be a powerful limiter in terms of what folks are willing to share, because when we're worried too much about what others are saying about what we're doing, it can sometimes prevent us from moving forward.
Exactly. And so many of them have amazing, wonderful ideas, but they're just so afraid of what people are going to say about them if they do it, because it's not, quote unquote, in their repertoire or what people already know them for.
And then, so what advice do you have for women who are trying to find their way or place?
Just do it.
Just do it.
You know, Nike has like the best saying, just do it. You never know who is going to impact, how it's going to change your life unless you do it. Sometimes we overthink to the point that we don't even do anything. It kind of pushes us backwards instead of forward. So if you kind of just take a leap, at least you can say you know what happened, whether it turned out good, bad, or indifferent. At least you can say you know what happened. You're not going to have that feeling on your deathbed saying, I wonder if I had started that business, what my life would have been like.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. I saw a video last week where there was a gentleman who was on his deathbed, and in the room with him were all of his dreams. And they were talking about, if you don't pursue your dreams die with you, because they were yours to explore and to build. And you might have had something that could have changed somebody else's life. Exactly.
I truly believe that.
And so what advice do you offer for someone who is at that place where they're like, I want to get started, but I'm afraid, to push them to move forward? Because just do it just doesn't work for everybody.
No, it doesn't. I was one of those chronic overthinkers. So I actually had to just jump in there and take a leap of faith. I mean, I did that when I started my own national tour. I've done it launching the product that I have today. For people who can't just do it, think about what it is you truly want to do. Mm-hmm. And think about, if you, like you said, the man who was surrounded by his dreams, if you only want to live that through your images in the mind. Now, if you only want to live through the images of your mind, that's great. That's the life you want. But if you truly want your life to reflect something, a legacy that you can leave for your kids or for your family, you have to do something. And like you said, the man in the dreams, your dream, whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, could transform the whole world. And we're probably waiting for it. And you're just sitting on it because you're afraid of what someone's going to say about you doing something that they don't see you normally do.
Right. And we shouldn't allow fear to be the reason that we don't move forward to pursue our dreams.
Fear paralyzes me every day. I mean, like yesterday, I was about to scrap my whole boot camp that I created.
Well, sometimes
so it doesn't, I mean, fear comes up all the time. You have to learn how to push yourself past it.
Exactly. And we're going to have to leave it right there, Ms. Freeney. So thanks for being on Beyond Just Talk. I wish you continued success with your blog and helping women to live their story. If you'd like to learn more about Ms. Freeney, and her blog, please visit her website at womenaregamechangers.com. Folks, we're just getting started today. There's still more to discuss about a woman who prepares young girls to be future she-EOs. So stay tuned. As for the rest of today's show, we'll learn about the work required to be an entrepreneur, obtain information about the purpose of the She-EO Academy, discuss the challenges and benefits of being a small business owner, discuss ways to balance your work, family, and personal lives. Before I introduce today's featured guest, I want listeners to know that if you'd like to join our conversation, please dial 1-800-450-7876. My featured guest today, DeShawn Robinson-Chew, is a social entrepreneur, professor, and founder of She-EO LLC. Ms. Robinson-Chew comes from a lineage of entrepreneurs which provided her an opportunity to gain valuable experiences while working for several family businesses. After working with women entrepreneurs, the idea emerged for the She-EO Academy. Subsequently, She-EO LLC was founded in 2003, with the first academy launched in 2011. Also in 2011, Mrs. Robinson-Chew received the Businesswoman of the Year Award from the Seroptimus of Fairfax and Community Business Partnership. In 2014, She-EO LLC received a Small Business Growth Award from the Women's Business Center of Northern Virginia. In 2015, she won the Regional Innovate Her Small Business Administration SBA Business Plan Award from the Community Business Partnership. Now, without further ado, I welcome my guest, who is a social entrepreneur, professor, role model, and She-EO developer. DeShawn Robinson-Chew, welcome to Beyond Just Talk.
Thank you very much, Sly, for having me. I am so happy and blessed to be here.
Well, I am glad to have you here as well. So what I always like to do is to start with learning a little bit about the person who's on the show. So who is DeShawn Robinson-Chew?
Well, I am first a child of God. And I am a mother of three, wife to Barron, and daughter of Philip and Elizabeth.
Great. And then, so what sort of got you started down this path of entrepreneurship?
Well, I think it happened kind of intuitively as I was a young girl surrounded by entrepreneurs, but not realizing the impact that would have on my life later on. I had several family members who owned businesses, and I would not only come to work for their businesses in high school, but as a young girl, see them engaging in their business, visit them with my mom and grandmom. So I was exposed. I understood what they were doing, but didn't really understand the impact of that on the greater community.
Yeah, and sometimes when we learn life lessons, it's very valuable to have family influences that can help to drive the things that we do in the future. But we'll continue this conversation right after the break.
News updates on the web at WOLDCnews.com.
Good morning. This WOL traffic update is brought to you by Lead Safe America. 295 southbound, still pretty slow from Benning Road down to East Capitol Street. Everything's moving pretty well northbound on 295 now. 3rd Street Tunnel northbound, a little heavy up from Massachusetts Avenue to the end of the tunnel. At New York Avenue, heading into Georgetown, M Street at 31st Street Northwest, it was an accident. Thinking about renovating that beautiful old house? Don't poison your kids. Test for lead. To learn how to make your house safe, go to leadsafeamerica.org. Now your WOL weather forecast brought to you by Jiffy Lube. For today, a code orange air quality alert in effect, a high near 94. A few clouds overnight down to 72. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high near 92. Now through September 7th, drive into your local Jiffy Lube and change more than your oil. Help change your life. Donate $3 for the Muscular Dystrophy Association and receive $100 in Jiffy Lube savings. 84 degrees right now in Washington, D.C. Steve Hirschhorn for News Talk 1450 WOL, where information is power.
The odds of having a boy who grows up loving baseball,
1 in 6.
Which earns him a college scholarship,
1 in 2,500.
That gets him a contract in the minors,
1 in 3,700.
Which leads to starting shortstop in the majors,
1 in 290,000.
The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism,
1 in 150. You know the odds. Now learn the signs. Go to autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You wanna go? All of you who wanna go to college, wanna go? You best listen to this knowledge. Listen, you gotta be a go-getter, cause it's hard to get there. Get up in their face, get up in their space, so ask for help and do not stop. knowhowtogo.org. Let's ride.
That was Farnsworth Bentley with Wanna Go. For more college info, visit knowhowtogo.org. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
1450 WOL.
All right, folks, welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with S.L. Young. We've got DeShawn Robinson-Chew in studio with me. She is the founder of SheEO LLC and also has this SheEO Academy. So we were talking about the origin of your interest in being an entrepreneur, and you talked about some of the influences that your family had. And so did you do any entrepreneurial activities on your own in high school or college?
Well, actually, it started in elementary school. I was a Girl Scout, as many young girls are, and I was active in my Girl Scout troop, and I loved selling. I found selling came easy to me. I enjoyed explaining products and describing the cookies, and so my first entrepreneurial endeavor, a lot like a lot of the girls, was Girl Scout, selling Girl Scout cookies. And I ended up being the top seller on several occasions. And I had an uncle who, whenever he saw me, he would say, "Oh, here comes DeShawn. What is she selling next?" Because it was easy, I took that to my streets. My parents encouraged me dabbling in different things. So they would buy me toys that allowed me to create jewelry, other toys. And I would say, what can I do with these things I created? And I ended up asking my mom permission to open the screen in the front of our house. Mm-hmm. And I made flyers. This gave to all the kids in the neighborhood, and they would come up to the window and buy my toys and jewelry for about 5 cents, a penny, 10 cents.
Right.
And that was still in elementary school.
Wow. Sometimes those dreams start early. It's funny because I remember when I was in junior high, and I didn't even think of it as being entrepreneurial, but we weren't supposed to have candy in school, so I would buy some candy before I would go to junior high. And then I would have all this candy, and then everybody was like, "Can I have some?" And then by the time I gave it all away, all my candy was gone. So I said, you know what? Why don't I just start selling it for 5 cents, 10 cents? And I started making money, and then all of a sudden I had more candy than I knew what to do with, but I also had a business and I was generating money. So it's interesting that kids can have entrepreneurial ideas, and sometimes when we don't have somebody who can help to influence that, or if you don't pick up on it right away, you lose that opportunity, because I think all of us in some way have that entrepreneurial sense, right?
We all do in different forms and different facets. I think some of it is innate, some of it is taught, some of it you do because, like you said, with the candy, it just seemed like a natural progression. One of the challenges that I faced, and I didn't realize it was a challenge until later in life, is that with all these activities I had, with selling the candy, the Girl Scouts, with having the salesman persona, like my uncle said, no one ever tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, I think you're an entrepreneur." Mm-hmm. And later in life, I realized that was a missed opportunity, and I had to backtrack and regroup when I became a high school senior, a college student, and then an adult, to really understand what that entrepreneurial piece was in my life.
Right. And then so if we fast forward a little bit, and jump to your college days, you were a fellow at the George Washington University Center for the Advancement for Small Business. So what did you do in this role, and why was it important that you took on this role?
It's interesting. I started my master's program at GW, and again, not really owning the entrepreneur that was in me. I walked past this office, and one of my fellow students, fellow colleagues, just talked to me. This is what we do here, and introduced me to the professor at the time, Dr. Toftori, who was the director of the program. And I just thought it was fascinating. He said, "Well, you can help us out, and you can go out to the community and speak and help." And I said, "Well, can I make this a formal thing?" And so that's when the fellowship opportunity opened up.
So was your interest more in the entrepreneurial path, or was it more that you could go out and connect with the community at that point?
I think the community connection piece came later, but the fact that I was getting a master's in business and could incorporate entrepreneurship in it fascinated me. I didn't know to pursue a track in entrepreneurship. There were very few colleges at the time. There are many more now that have entrepreneurial tracks, and I just thought that was fascinating. It was very exciting to me.
And then, so what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned during your fellowship?
Well, I also took a class in entrepreneurship, so I had both going concurrently, and we were partnered with small business in the community, medium-sized business actually in the community. And one thing, the lesson I learned was about business planning. So they had the graduate team matched with a business, and we helped them do research and write their business plan or update their marketing plan. And that was the practical piece. Working in the center was the theoretic piece. So bringing those two together to understand this is a topic, this is a course of study. It's also an industry and a way of life for many people, particularly the business owners we wrote plans and did research for.
Yeah, and I think it's very important when individuals are learning about business and that there's an element of the theory, which we know all so well and that happens in the classroom, but I think it's great when you can have opportunities to partner with local businesses to help them as well. So as part of the work that you were doing out in the community, did these businesses have to pay anything for the services, or was this all done complimentary?
No, they did not have to pay. Dr. Toftori went out into the community and found the businesses. But I will add, the turning point for me came when I met a fellow student named Jeannie Latenzer. Jeannie Latenzer and I became really good friends. She was a member of a group called Students for Responsible Business, which is now called Net Impact. She brought me into the group, and upon graduation, she graduated first. She then went to work for what is now known as the Community Business Partnership. And asked me would I want to come over and do workshops there. And that was a turning point in my life.
Isn't it interesting sometimes somebody else can sort of light that flame for you? They might see something in you or want to say, you know what, do you want to try this? And it might not be something that you've ever done. And if you give yourself an opportunity to take a chance, you might discover that you have a passion.
Oh, absolutely. I did not know what I was getting into. But I liked talking entrepreneurship. I wanted to meet other business people. And this was an opportunity for me to get out into the community and provide workshops. She brought me on. She ended up working with the South Fairfax Business Development Center, again, now the Community Business Partnership, and she and I became colleagues.
Great. And then so you also did some other volunteering too, right, over with AmeriCorps?
Yes. While still in graduate school, I joined AmeriCorps. And AmeriCorps has, many people I don't think know, has economic development track. They have students in their AmeriCorps program who specifically work on economic development projects. And for me, that was huge. I went to work in Southeast D.C. with CDCs, and I did workshops for former felons. I did workshop for unemployed individuals. That was, I think, what began my social entrepreneurship life, even though I don't think I called it that then. I can't believe I'm calling it that now.
Well, and before we get to that, let's sort of take a step back. So, what is AmeriCorps, and what does it do for the community? Because some folks might not be aware of it.
Good point. Many people have heard of Peace Corps, and Peace Corps is the international component where people go overseas and they volunteer for development projects. But a lot of people don't understand we have an American component, AmeriCorps, domestic side, where you have volunteers who are sent to do development in the communities right here at home. And again, there are all kinds of development where it could be with children, it could be in inner cities, it could be rural America. But again, there's also the economic development piece where you go into rebuilding communities through small business and community service.
Okay, great. And then, so when you volunteered over at AmeriCorps, what was required? Did you have to fill out an application? Did you just say, "Hey, I'm here, I'm available"?
No, there was an application process. I actually joined the LISC AmeriCorps. The way it's distributed throughout the United States is that they have community partners. AmeriCorps itself partners with local organizations, and there are several in the Metro D.C. area that you could partner with. So you would make your application to that community organization. They would accept you and then assign you a project and a project partner.
Okay. And then so what you were talking about earlier is that you do the economic development piece. So specifically, what did you do in that role?
Sure. I specifically worked with the directors of community development corporations. In the District of Columbia, you have several CDCs, as they're called, and they are housed in the community to provide various services to that community, whether it be resume writing, home finding a home, looking for a home, or even serving as the voice or the advocate for those community residents if they have issue with their streets or with their local representative or what have you. So the CDCs operate off of grant funding, and so with limited budget, the AmeriCorps representatives or volunteers go in and provide a function in the CDC that they would have otherwise had to pay an employee to do.
Great, thanks. And then what do you think was the most valuable lessons that you learned in this role?
Well, there were a few. I would say the two directors I worked with, Carver Terrace and East of the River, and the directors at the time served as mentors to me. They really held my hand and groomed me for future leadership. And with them, they took me out into the community. I actually had the opportunity to meet Eric Holder in that role when he came down into the community for one of their festivals, one of the community days, and I was working with AmeriCorps and the director. I have photos with him. I hold them near and dear to my heart. When you get to meet people in leadership, that makes an impact on your life. And so the directors of the CDCs, they served as mentors. They introduced me to people in the community. They also, in giving me the projects, gave me the opportunity, the hands-on opportunity to create programs that I ended up delivering to their community residents. And the community development piece, the program development piece, the actual in-office work. I did program development. I delivered the programs, but I also typed letters and entered information into the computer. I served in various roles, which I hadn't even graduated from school yet. That was a huge experience and a huge opportunity.
So as part of your fellowship at GW and then the work that you did at AmeriCorps, were those sort of the driving force that sort of gave you the idea to do some of your social entrepreneurship?
They gave me a push I knew was inside, but it brought out all of the connections, the resources, the ability to write programs, to deliver programs. The one thing I received from AmeriCorps' participation and the fellowship was the idea of how to go out and make an impact. And you make that impact by connecting, by involving, by asking, and by receiving mentorship. And that was a launch pad for me.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship is more than just having a dream. It requires taking action. And a lot of folks will say, I want to start a business, but they don't necessarily want to do the work to get the business actually up and running. So let's pick that up after the break, and we'll learn more about your organization.
Will do.
All right, thanks.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
This report brought to you by Lead Safe America. Contractors use lead safe work practices. Get lead smart at the Department of Energy and Environment website, doee.dc.gov/lead. Mayor Bowser is backing Police Chief Kathy Lanier. In a police union vote, more than 97% of officers said they have no confidence in her ability to manage the department and keep city residents safe. Delroy Burton is chairman of the union's executive committee.
Sends shockwaves to the mayor that her police force does not trust the leader that she chose. It should also alert her that if we can't trust her, we don't believe the public can trust her. And I think the mayor's office now has to make some decisions about who leads this organization.
Lanier had no comment on the vote. The mayor released a statement saying she has every confidence in the chief. A Rockville man was fatally beaten and stabbed in Wheaton. Police are looking for the killers of 22-year-old Jose Alfaro. There have been no arrests, but police say there are multiple suspects in the attack Sunday night near Veers Mill and Randolph Roads. AAA reports the average cost for a gallon of regular in the D.C. area right now is $2.45. That's 7 cents cheaper than last week, 22 cents below a month ago, and nearly $1 less than a year ago. Amid reports the Redskins may be looking to trade or cut Robert Griffin, the team has named a new starting quarterback. Head coach Jay Gruden says the decision to promote Kirk Cousins was a no-brainer.
What he's done in practice and OTAs has really opened our eyes, and he's proven to be the best quarterback on our roster at this time. Really, it's a compliment to Kirk.
Washington has one final preseason game for opening the regular season at home against the Miami Dolphins. The Rays beat the Orioles 6-3. Ryan Zimmerman had a big night, but the Nats lost in St. Louis 8-5. Zimmerman hit a 3-run homer and drove in 4 of the runs. This report brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Each day, more than 1.6 million Americans suffer with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. Support the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America to help and to find cures at ccfa.org. I'm John Lewis. When you're looking for news from Black America, go to news1.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with S.L. Young. Today I have DeShawn Robinson-Chew, who's in the studio with me, and we're discussing her organization, which is SheEO LLC, but she also has the SheEO Academy. So prior to the break, we were starting to lead into a conversation about entrepreneurship and why she sort of got going down this path. And so we were talking about you can't just have a dream, you've got to take action and you've got to do the work in order to get things going. Because, you know, if you spend all this time dreaming and thinking about it, it doesn't do any good unless you actually get your hands dirty and say, I'm going to do it and persevere through it. So you've persevered through it because you started your organization first in 2003. So 2003 is when you started the SheEO LLC, and then it wasn't until 2011 that you had your first SheEO Academy. So let's take a step back. So what happened in 2003 when you got started?
In 2000, I began working as a Next Level instructor. Next Level is a national business planning program, and I was helping hundreds of people start their businesses, and then I went to work for the Women's Business Center. And as I was meeting and engaging with these entrepreneurs, I started to feel a disconnect in that I too had written plans and had ideas that I wanted to launch, but for some reason, well, I shouldn't say some reason. I forgot to say I was a new wife and new mother at the time. So I felt like the timing was bad and I had this going on. I continued writing my plan, though. I kept the plan, and I just had an epiphany and put my foot down in 2003 and wrote up the paperwork to form the LLC. So I formed the LLC. I worked with a consultant, worked with an attorney to get trademark status, and said, I'm ready to go. But as you know, it doesn't always happen that way.
So what happened? What prevented you from moving forward immediately?
So the first business I started was a women's resource and information directory. And I figured, hey, I have connections. I want to give women a voice, and I could do that through this program. I met other women who owned businesses around the country, directories and publications. So my first business that I actually launched was not the business that I wrote the business plan for. And I thought that was, at the time, a good idea. But in hindsight, I deferred a dream, is what I ended up doing.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs start out with an initial dream or plan, and then they realize that this isn't necessarily what I want to do, or I need to make some adjustments. So it sounds like you started down a path that you were going in one direction and then ended up going somewhere else.
It almost seemed to me like the path of least resistance. And I just finished working with a lot of entrepreneurs who came to our center, who sought our services because of the resistance they faced. And I helped and coached and trained them through getting over that resistance. But funny, I couldn't get over it on my own.
Well, it's often easier to coach someone else to do it than actually doing it yourself.
That's right.
Unfortunately, because, we've probably heard this too, because as being professors, I've often heard is those that can't teach and those who do.
Right, exactly.
But that's not necessarily the case, because there's some of us that do and teach.
A lot of us who do.
Exactly.
And teach. That's right. That's right.
And then so were there paths that you took prior to forming the SheEO Academy?
So I launched the directory. I was moving along. It was going successful. Then we got into the second and third issues, and I ran into some challenges with advertisers and with editors. And again, it wasn't my true passion. I enjoyed doing it, but I said, let me get out here and work with girls and women. So I would have networking get-togethers under SheEO. I would go and volunteer with Girl Scout troops, providing workshops. So what's interesting is that I had that dream, and I said, well, let me just try my hand at it. So 2004 passed, 2005. I then got into real estate, thinking that would be a great source of income. At that time, real estate was huge, but still doing workshops and not putting the foot down to go full force or full blast with the academy or the camp. Again, this business plan for the academy still on the shelf. I even went to some youth conferences and some trade shows where other camp providers and class and youth program providers were there. I wanted to see what the market was like. I put some information out there that I never really followed through with at that time. It wasn't until 2010. So we're talking, oh goodness, almost 7 years later. Actually 2009. And I said, you know what? I've been putting off a dream. And my whole business plan is about empowering and encouraging young ladies to not get to a place where I am now. Because that's what I had been encountering, not only internally and personally, but with other women. They had been delaying and deferring the dream. I heard Vernetta earlier speak about people on her blog talking about overcoming barriers and overthinking it. So I had a look in the mirror moment. And one day I was just in my mirror and I said, you know, this is not you. You are not this delayer, this push aside type of person. You are an Aries. You're a take charge kind of girl. So I put my foot down. And surprise, you know how these lovely surprises come about. So I started reaching out to people, put the website together. I had a new website. I had flyers. I had families that were connecting me. And then I find out I'm pregnant with my third child.
Okay. So life events sometimes happen that can delay our dreams as well.
Yes.
And before we continue on, I wanted to take a step back because one of the things that you have been describing is all these different experiences that you've had. And all of these experiences are building points. They're not necessarily diversions because we can always learn something from the things that we do and experience over time. And then the other thing that you mentioned that I thought was really important is that managing your company is not a part-time job.
It's not a part-time job, despite the attempt of many people, including myself, to try to do what I call the safe thing or take the safe route and work your business on the side. Don't get me wrong. I believe you should have a foundation. You should have resources in place before you jump out. You should definitely talk to your family before you do that. But for many years, I tried to juggle what I call the safe job and my entrepreneurial passion, and found that they could not coexist easily. And so I came to a point where I had a breakdown mentally and physically.
Well, I mean, that sometimes happens when we're pursuing our dreams, when we're running hard all the time. And it's not necessarily that you're weak or any other factors that folks normally will try to associate. Sometimes folks break down mentally as well as they break down physically. And it's interesting because Steve Harvey had a message that was posted on his page. I actually saw it on somebody else's Facebook page that said sometimes you've got to just jump. And sometimes your parachute's going to get tattered and torn, but jump. Because would you rather stay doing something that you don't want to do versus taking a chance to do what you do want to do? And eventually that parachute's going to open.
That's right. That's right. And it did. It opened. The homeschool community reached out first. I started Academy with a homeschool community in the Fredericksburg region. They were very interested. I started getting hits on my website. I then later launched the Facebook page. And because of my background with the Small Business Administration and program development, I applied for RFPs. I responded to a proposal request from Loudoun County, Fairfax County, and Stafford County to provide camps and classes for young people. And all of that happened. You see how things work when you walk in your purpose. All of it happened within 2 years' time.
And so what services does the CEO Academy offer?
CEO LLC is a company that provides tools and training to help little ladies lead and succeed in life and in business. And the first program that was launched was Is the Academy.
Okay.
It is still going. It's a community-based program where girls come together once or twice a week to talk about what it means to be a CEO. We have 5 success principles that we take from the word CEO: is to be sophisticated, healthy, educated, and an entrepreneur who's original. And from there, the contracts with the counties allowed me to launch camps. And the day camps, which are full-day programs, girls bring their lunch and they stay all day. They learn those same 5 success principles, but in a fun way where they are also meeting other motivated girls that are maybe from their community, from their school. We've had girls travel from out of state to attend our camp.
So let's take a step back. So let's talk about, what does that CEO mean again? So it's sophisticated.
Sophisticated, healthy, educated entrepreneur who is original.
All right. Well, there's nothing better than being original.
That's right.
Because there's nothing worse than being the best copy of someone else.
Well, I've seen that try to happen lately, but yes, you need to be original and own your originality, which is one of our mantras in the program.
Well, and I think that's very important. So how did you obtain funding to get your business started? Because a lot of folks are probably thinking right now, I want to start my own business, but I don't have the funding. Maybe I don't have it in the bank. Maybe I don't know how to get a loan. How did you figure out what was the best model for you, whether you self-funded or got loans? You don't have to get into real personal details, but how did you figure out how the model worked for you?
Well, I'm, again, blessed to come from an entrepreneurial family.
Mm-hmm.
So I first reached out to my family.
Okay.
And I wrote a nice professional letter and sent it to my family members asking for funding, and then had an official family meeting where I had a PowerPoint slide presentation and I pitched my company. And I did receive funding that allowed me to get jump-started. Of course, my husband and I put some funds in. One of the things I am averse to is debt. So I tried as much as possible to do this self-funded until I got to a point where I needed a little money. And so I went to the Small Business Administration's Small Business Development Center.
Well, maybe I can come to your family and do a pitch meeting. I haven't even tried it in my own, but, it sounds like there might be some money in yours. And then so you got, your funding, whether it was from your family or from the Small Business Administration. And then how did you go about securing office space? Because that's the next important thing, too.
Well, again, another blessing is my office has and still is home-based.
Okay.
And keeping my overhead low was a goal of mine in the business, understanding that to manage your budget, you have to manage your expenses. And so keeping my overhead low and having office space. No, I don't sit at my kitchen table. I'm fortunate to have a room that I sit in. SheEO is a program that's delivered on site. So in growing my business and developing the business plan, I wanted to be mobile, in part because I'm a mom, and I needed something that was family friendly. I plan to keep it family friendly as we grow.
Yeah, and I think it's important when you can have an enterprise or an operation where you can easily pick it up and take it somewhere else. And so let's leave it right there, and then we can pick up this conversation right after the break.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
$14.50 WOL.
Good morning. This WOL traffic update is brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving on South Dakota Avenue between Bladensburg Road and Rhode Island Avenue and Vista Street Northeast. It was an accident with police on the scene right now. Around the Beltway, we're doing okay. No problems on 295 north to southbound right now, moving pretty smoothly. Georgetown, Wisconsin Avenue, 31st Street. It was an accident. Mothers Against Drunk Driving supports the victims of drunk driving, drugged driving, and underage drinking at no cost. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. Now your WOL weather forecast brought to you by MedStar Washington Hospital Center. For today, an code orange air quality alert and a high near 94. A few clouds overnight down to 73. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, high near 93. MedStar Washington Hospital Center, one of U.S. News and World Report's best hospitals in the nation. To make an appointment with a specialist, 202-877-DOCS. Steve Hirschhorn for News Talk 1450 WOL, where information is power.
All right, folks, welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with S.L. Young. Today we have DeShawn Robinson-Chew, and we've been talking about SheEO LLC and obtaining some information about the SheEO Academy. And part of the work that you do related to entrepreneurship is helping young ladies understand their leadership skills and their ability to lead their own organizations, because it's important for these young ladies to learn this early in life. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, before the break, you were asking me about funding, and recently I had a pitch. I decided to go to the next level, and I had a pitch, and I decided in my pitch to open by asking one of the audience members, who was a fellow woman entrepreneur, how she looked at herself when she was a girl, and could she have seen her owning this business as an adult. I wanted to use that as a launch pad for my pitch. Well, the lady I happened to just pull out of the audience and ask, when it was time for her to give her pitch, she was almost in tears because she said she would have never thought that she would have owned a business as a young girl. She was a girl, somewhat in poverty in a rough community from an immigrant family. And she started her pitch reflecting on the feelings she felt from mine. Mm-hmm. And it's many stories like that I've heard from women. SBA says women are starting businesses at twice the rate of men. However, you still, having heard from Vernetta earlier from her blog, you still have women who are doing that now, didn't feel like they could do it then. Mm-hmm. I mentioned how I was never tapped on my shoulder and said, you are an entrepreneur. So with SheEO, my intention is to just give the girls permission to explore entrepreneurship as a potential career option. I want to let them know it's okay to have an idea. There's a lot of push right now about STEM, mm-hmm. but with STEM comes innovation, and a lot of things they're going to innovate will become either their own businesses or someone else's. So I believe there's a great connection with the STEM initiative to encouraging young ladies to be entrepreneurs. A lot of young boys get the pat on the back and taken to the golf course and introduced to CEOs. I still hear from girls and parents that they don't have those same opportunities even in 2015.
So let's discuss some of the things that your organization does for them. So, what are some specific examples of things that young ladies will go through your program?
Absolutely. Well, in going through the 5 success principles, we have engaging activities where they get to whiteboard, they get to work with a team, understand the importance of being able to work well with others. They get to write goals. Many of them I would ask, have you ever written a goal? Has anyone ever asked you to write a goal? Mm-hmm. And I still get a few hands, even now, so that we go through goal writing process. We go through, I give them a problem. They have to say how is a product that they developed in their team going to solve that problem. But first they have to be sophisticated, simply meaning ready and aware to take on whatever goal or challenge comes next. So we go through some business etiquette training, mm-hmm. Where they learn simple things that you think a lot of kids today get in their schools. Eating at a meal, what utensils to use, how to shake someone's hand, and then transferring that to if you go to a networking event, how to hand someone a business card and hold your drink at the same time and make eye contact. Mm-hmm. So we go from business etiquette to planning goals and setting goals, and how some of those goals may become a great idea that's going to be original and be the next Oprah, maybe.
Right. And, some of those other things that you were describing, some young men don't necessarily get that type of training as well. So I think it's important for young men to receive that as well. So when they're going through these soft skills training, do they get a certificate, or is it connected with some type of other educational programs, connected with schools? So how does that all work?
Well, it's funny you ask that. As we move into the next phase of the company, I have now many years of customers who are asking what's next. Mm-hmm. We launched this year the Next Step Camp, where girls who have taken the first step or gone through the academy and learned some of the soft skills you're mentioning or that we discussed, and now they create their own business plan for their own business and they pitch it. Mm. And I bring real CEOs and real SheEOs to speak to the girls, to discuss their challenges. And now we're bringing in some of those real SheEOs to serve as panelists, sort of like a mini Shark Tank, when the girls pitch and give them real live feedback on their ideas. I've had girls bring prototypes of their idea or their business product to camp or academy, mm-hmm. and show it to the other future SheEOs.
And then what about partnering with local businesses? Do you have an opportunity to take these young ladies out to some of the local businesses to see women at work?
Yes, that is probably one of the more exciting things that we do with SheEO. When we have the opportunity, we take little mini field trips to their businesses, to the SheEO's business. We've gone to businesses in Fredericksburg, Stafford, Loudoun. We have been all around the region. So sometimes working with Parks and Recreation as a partner, we don't have the opportunity to take the field trip, so we bring the real SheEOs in, and they will bring samples from their business. We had a chiropractor who brought in a skeleton that she had, and she brought in her acupuncture needles. The girls could not handle the needles. We didn't allow that. But sometimes we have to be flexible depending on the partnership that's in place. This year, we partnered with the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce to provide camp at the chamber. Mm-hmm. And I said to the chamber staff, many of your chamber members are parents, and I bet you their children don't know what they do. Mm-hmm. They know mommy and daddy go to work, but they haven't processed that mommy or daddy is an entrepreneur. And so that partnership was very important to me because I want to let the girls know that there are real live examples, and some of them live right in your home.
Great. Thank you. And then so before we start to run out of time here, because we're starting to get to the end of the show, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the other things that you're working on. You've got a book that you've published, and it's called Maddie Learns E for Entrepreneur.
Yes, that will be coming out soon. It's a children's book. And as I just mentioned, I want young people, not just girls, but kids, to understand what entrepreneurship is. Maddie is actually my 8-year-old daughter. And I, in the book, talk about where Maddie takes her mom, that's me, to career day at school. And Maddie's mom tells the class that she's an entrepreneur. And the class starts to laugh because it's a big word they've never heard of. Okay.
And I think we've got a caller on the line. So why don't we see who's on the line right now. Welcome to Beyond Just Talk.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to say I'm calling from the Community Business Partnership in Springfield, and we love DeShawn. Just wanted to call in and show her some support for all the hard work that she has done over the years to get CEO off the ground, and we are very, very proud of her.
Thank you, Sheena. Thank you, guys.
Well,
Yay,
thank you for
family.
calling in and showing some support.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. And then in the remaining moments that we have left in the show, I just want to get some quick advice from you on some things, because there's other entrepreneurs that are out there. So what are some challenges with owning your own business?
Well, as a mompreneur, and on my personal website, robinsonchew.com, the first thing you see on there is mompreneur. I see myself as an entrepreneur who is a mom first. And what that means for myself, my business, my customers, and my community is that I have to have balance, and I have to show how to balance as a role model to other women. I also believe by saying mompreneur and owning the word CEO, I am motivating the young girls through the word that is spoken and the life that is lived. Vernetta earlier mentioned, she said some of the women on her blog want to leave a legacy. Well, I want girls to start their legacy now. I want them to truly live out their story as they're living, not as an afterthought.
And then, so with the benefit of your experiences, what would you do differently if you started your business again today?
I would, to be honest with you, I think I would start sooner. That's my canned answer. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's all destined. Things are the way they were intended to be. You mentioned earlier that it's a part of the journey, that all of the things that I call diversions or challenges were foundational to putting me in the place where I am today. And I embrace that. I could hindsight and second guess all day long. And I want to encourage any entrepreneurs who are listening to not do that. Your path, your journey is what's destined for you. However, when I did work at the Women's Business Center, I would say to people, you will be given a dream. You will be given your destiny, and it's all going to play out through faith. However, at some point, you have to make the first step. You have to actually step through the door. And I wrote the business plan for CEO before my first child was born. I started the company in 2003. I should have made more steps and maybe put my foot down a little sooner. But again, I am a very happy mother. I did go through some personal challenges, and I had a breakdown. And I think that breakdown was the point where I was in conflict with my passion, my purpose, and what I was actually doing.
And one of the things that you mentioned was that, our experiences in life are part of the stepping stones for where we need to be. And so I think we all need to learn and to embrace those moments and not say, I'm thrown off because of it, or it was a detour. But to say, this was part of my experience and own it, and then continue to move forward. And real quick, work, family, and personal time are important. How do you maintain balance?
Who said I maintain balance?
You got to maintain some.
I have my daughter with me today because I wanted her to see what's going on. My family is a part of my life, and thus they have to be a part of my business. I don't see that there will ever be true balance. And if there's ever true balance, I think I've achieved some sort of perfection, and we all know that life isn't perfect. So I do the best I can with setting boundaries at home. I have scheduled time. I schedule childcare. We have babysitters. My parents are great. My husband has been fabulous. And so just using your community and using your resources.
All right. Well, that's great. And then I just want to give out your website again. It's Robinson-Chew that you mentioned a little while ago.com. So it's Robinson, CHEW, and then CEOacademy.com. Well, thank you,
Thank
DeShawn
you,
Robinson-Chew,
Sly,
for being on my
so
show.
much.
I appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed today's show. Next week, I'm going to do a little bit of retooling because I had a plan for next week, but I want to do something different. So tune in and find out what we're going to be doing next week. Remember, your candle is fuel from within, so don't let anyone reduce or block the fuel to maximize its brightness. Enjoy the rest of your week. Until next time, my friends, have a good one.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.